within the ecosystem of youth development, youth employment is certainly one of the important results of developing a youth and getting them to a stage where they can find employment, whether they make it for themselves or they find it through some company or otherwise. Sustainable livelihoods as well is wrapped up in the context of a young person being able to utilize the resources they have, and we like to say use what you have in your hands or in your house to make sustained, ongoing, prolonged livelihoods, meaning income generating sources for yourself. So today we have on our panel Rochelle Reid James, who is a Jamaican youth. She's the Jamaica Youth Ambassador. She's the author of a book focused on climate change adaptation. She holds a bachelor's degree in public sector management and master's degree in economic and social development. Then we have the famous Dr. Jimmy Tin, and that's all I can say of the name. He's a senior fellow at the Sir Arthur Lewis Institute of Social and Economic Studies, SALISES, University of the West Indies, Mona Campus, Jamaica. He has published books and several articles on a variety of research areas, including gender, informal settlements, meaning squatters, monitoring and evaluation, local government and public sector reforms. And we have, should I say young Mr. Carlos Applewhaite, because I just realized this has been one of my interns at my last former company. So he's a consulting officer in business analysis and research at the Jamaica Promotions Corporation, JAMPRO. His research interests include civil society, civic engagement, technological innovation, and entrepreneurship. So we have three very, very different perspectives to hear from on cases and proposals for youth employment and sustainable livelihoods. So I'm going to hand over to Ms. James, Mrs. James, to do her presentation.
Are you hearing me clearly? Okay. Or you prefer your mics? All right, good afternoon, everyone. Now, my study focuses on youth as partners in development, and it is we look at it as a tool for achieving economic growth, youth-led economic growth, through a culture of entrepreneurship being encouraged among young people. Now, the question is raised, how can Caribbean leaders stimulate sustainable youth-led economic development? The answer is simple, by promoting a culture of youth entrepreneurship, which requires the reshaping of core values. And this means that they're required to create a cultural change towards youth entrepreneurship and job creation. How do we change culture? Caribbean leaders can stimulate sustainable youth-led economic growth by using the model presented by John Cotter for achieving organizational change. For the socio-economic future of the Caribbean region, the belief is that youth can be encouraged. This study looks at, my study looks at how using the emotional response, allowing persons to feel something, then that will cause them in turn to change. So changing one person is hard enough, but changing an entire organization of 1,000+ persons is a Herculean task. Yet organizations do this every day. If we apply that same change model used in organizations that have successfully achieved cultural change to achieve a culture of youth entrepreneurship, the change will continue to be lasting and sustainable. Now, what you see here is Cotter's 8-step process for leading change. And I'm not going to focus on all 8 steps because we have time against us. But I'm going to focus firstly on the first one, which is create a sense of urgency. The sense of urgency is already before us. There is 60% of the Caribbean population that is considered youth. which means that 60% of the population within the Caribbean falls under the age of 30 years. In addition to that, what we find is that within the Caribbean region, youth unemployment averages 1.5% of GDP overall. In response, there are a plethora of youth employment programs and youth entrepreneurship programs that are being implemented to support young people. They span trust initiatives that provide funding. There are coaching and enabling environment initiatives. However, what I found in my own research and fashioning this to the Qatar model is that in the most successful change cases, the individuals had a sense of passion. On the other hand, where change was less successful, individuals tended to intellectualize the change process. So they were not really grasping what the true and core principles and tenets were. Now, what are the benefits of using this kind of change philosophy in implementing cultural change on a national scale? I'm going to show you two things. The first is I did 3 focus group studies using WhatsApp. And I used this social media platform because I found that when you did face-to-face focus groups with young people oftentimes, depending on the person that is in front of them, their answers would change or it would be coached by their environment. And I'm going to read to you some of the responses that we received from our first 2 focus groups. So respondent NH said, in order to promote a culture of youth entrepreneurship, we should work towards sensitizing society to what entrepreneurship entails from an early age. Some form of brainwashing will need to take place so as to erase the archaic mantra of going to school and doing well to get a job as opposed to creating your own job. Begin the sensitization at the primary level and keep the momentum going throughout all years of schooling. Get other social institutions such as churches and community centers involved in such efforts as well. Respondent OP said, I would say create a more stimulating environment with more support from both private and public sector. There is a mounting fear of failure, and I think mentors can aid in the confidence building. By that, I mean, even if it's a pool of experts to aid in fleshing out your idea and route you to market, an incubation period after startup to aid in guiding you along. In focus group 2, respondent TF said, provide capital, whether through ease of access in terms of loans or by merely granting cash and other capital. Have more highlights of few successful persons, especially younger ones. This will really encourage youth and have them thinking that they can do it also. Respondent RJ said, mentorship is paramount. Legislation needs to be in place to protect startups and SMEs. Governments are not doing enough to promote growth in this sector. We need legislation to protect startups. And finally, I will share from our entrepreneurship focus group of entrepreneurs under 30. Respondent 4 indicated, start guidance from basic schools. Show youngsters that they should get an education, not to hold down a 9-to-5, but to create their own empire. Legislation to protect startups and SMEs instead of making the process of starting up so tedious. Encourage them, not through handouts, but through proper infrastructure that is transparent and on a level playing field. Change the political culture from the university level to the boardroom. Now, these are just some responses. And what I found during my research, looking at programs from different countries, all of them were disjointed. There was not a concerted effort at cultural change. So it was that after a young person decided that, listen, probably I lost my job, so now and I can't get another one, so the only option is for me to become an entrepreneur, that is when the support kicked in. So there was no serious effort to have a comprehensive program from start to finish, but all the initiatives were disjointed, and it took serious resilience and passion on the part of the young entrepreneur to follow through with the idea. So what I did then, I looked at some change models, cultural change models that were similar to the Qatar model, and I found one in particular that I'll share with you. It was the cultural change model of the Drinkwise campaign in Australia. And you found that a group of young persons partnered with alcohol distributors, and they said, listen, we find that each year, younger and younger Australians, 14 and below up to age 12, were taken to the emergency room with alcohol poisoning, or were drunk, or were being introduced to alcohol at very tender age. And there were issues of alcoholism among members of the population, or alcohol-related diseases that were being developed. So they decided not just to start an initiative to counsel and help persons, not just to institute legislation to enforce regulation, but instead what they did is embark on a massive social media and communication campaign that was grounded in serious marketing tools, and they followed the Qatar model in detail, and you could see every step of it along the way. I want to share a video with you from that program.
Bad day at work? Kids running you ragged? Worried about your finances? It's no wonder that stress relief is at the forefront of your mind at the end of the day. The problem is, when our alarm goes off the next morning, we're often reminded of why instinctively reaching for the bottle at the end of a hard day could be doing you more harm than good. Many of the short-term problems of drinking too much alcohol too often can be felt almost immediately. You might find you sleep badly because even a glass or two of alcohol a night can cause you to miss out on the important first stage of sleep, meaning you sleep more lightly and can wake up feeling exhausted. Alcohol also contains a lot of calories, 7 calories a gram in fact, so you may start gaining weight. There's also what's going on inside. Drink above the government guidelines and you're likely to increase your lifetime risk of damaging your liver, causing it to become inflamed, even scarred. And yet when your liver is damaged, you generally won't know about it until things get serious. Regularly drinking too much increases your risk of developing many serious illnesses, including cancer. Your risk of illness can increase with the amount of alcohol you consume. Regularly drinking too much also increases the risk of high blood pressure, which is one of the most important risk factors of having a heart attack or stroke. All of this can be a bit alarming, but just by drinking moderately and not consuming more than 2 standard drinks on any day for both men and women will reduce your lifetime risk of harm from alcohol-related disease or injury. First of all, you'll sleep better, you'll feel better, be more productive in your work and your life in general, and you'll be looking healthier and losing weight because you'll be consuming less calories. Plus, you'll know that for all the effects that you can see as a result of drinking less, your long-term health prospects will also be much improved. So, those are the main effects of alcohol on your body. To get the facts about alcohol and to have a better understanding of your drinking, explore the Drinkwise website.
And that's just one element of the program. Initially, it started out targeting youth, and then it branched out and went and focused on parents. And with the youth element of the campaign, they came up with a slogan, "Stay classy." So basically, it encouraged young people to focus on their education, and they can have fun, but they didn't have to be irresponsible in doing it. And what they found is that the number of people in Australia drinking at levels that place them at a risk of lifetime alcohol-related diseases or injury fell by 250,000 people in 2010. The proportion of people aged 14 or older choosing to abstain from alcohol rose between 2010 and 2013 from 19.9% to 22%. Now looking at how they implemented their program and picking also from different initiatives that were being carried out and are being executed in the Caribbean region, as well as pinching from the feedback given by the focus group participants, what I developed was a similar model using the cutoff framework of what would be ideal, and I'm showing you it here on the screen, what the ideal cultural change model would look like for us in the Caribbean region, for us to successfully create a culture of youth entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. James. We're going to ask Dr. Tind, Dr. Jimmy, Dr. Tind.
What I'm going to present today is really a skeleton of my paper. I thought since we are asleep, we will have more time, at least more than 15 minutes. And then I was told, no, that's not true. So for the last 2 days, I've been cutting it down to be a minimum. So I'll give the skeleton, simulate some arguments and the discussion afterwards. First of all, I'd like to get the word bank definition of what youth unemployment is, then move to discussing the situation of youth unemployment in Jamaica by looking at the statistics that I've been able to get together. Then look at the assumed or presumed causes of youth unemployment and the consequences of youth unemployment, and then finish with the possible solution to the problem. The World Bank defines youth unemployment as the state. I can't read that far. As the share of the labor force aged 15 to 25 years without work but available and seeking employment. So you have to be available. You don't have a job, but you're available to take a job with the years in the horizon. Now, I will move quickly to the statistics relating to the youth employment in Jamaica, because that's what I will be talking to for the first part of my discussion. Now, the table indicates youth unemployment has been on the rise for the last 5 years, for which data were available. And in each of those years, youth unemployment rates have been consistently higher, about 3 times more than adult employment. If you look on the table, the first section, it gives you the annual average rate of unemployment for the youth 14 to 25 years, and then adults, and you can see in the year 2009 it was 27 compared with 8. That's more than actually more than 3 times as many, as high. And then in the year 2013 it was 37.7 for the youth against 11.1 for the adults. But more particularly now, as also indicated in the table, the unemployment rate for the Jamaican as a whole increased from 11.4% in the year 2009, which is indicated there, 15.2% in the year 2013. However, the average rates for the youth unemployment increased from 27 in the year 2009 to 37.7 in the year 2013. But more alarmingly, with youth unemployment along the gender lines, you look at the second column and the third, while the rates of youth unemployment among the males increased from 22.5% in 2009 to 30% in 2013, the annual average rate of unemployment among the female increased from 33.2% in 2009 to a whopping 48% in 2013. The statistics were actually collected from the same one source, which is Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica, annual reports covering 2009 to 2013. I couldn't get a statistics for last year. Obviously, there are no statistics for this year. Now, the next table, we look at the possible explanation for youth unemployment. This is generic. It is supposed to be for Jamaica, but actually it can go for the whole of the Caribbean. The first supposed to be the cause of youth unemployment is lack of qualification. That's quite common, quite understandable, moreover, because many younger people lack the necessary skills and the training to impress employers when they are looking for a job. So they come for the job interview, ask questions: how will you handle this? How do you go about this? We have no clue. Then a second presumed cause, of course, is cyclical unemployment, which does occur during recession. And as you may recall, between the year 2008 and up to quite recently, if not even now, there has been a gradual recession started by the policies of the former president of the United States, Bush, which has affected almost everybody in the world. So during the recessions, the firms hesitate to fire the people whom they have as the employees, because if they fire them, they can't sustain the level of production. But definitely they are hesitant to employ new ones, especially if they turn out to be young workers. Then frictional unemployment, which we referred the youth leaving schools take a longer time to get any job, in which case, of course, it takes them a longer time to get a job, and the process of, obviously, they don't have the experience. So when they go for the job interview, what have you done in the past to relate what you are going to do? You don't have anything to say. So of course, they flag the interviews. Now, hypothesis cause relates the past unemployment trends that are likely to cause the future unemployment due to lack of the opportunity to learn the skills and to gain on-the-job training. The geographical factor as a cause of unemployment really, although it affects youth, but it tends to affect almost people equally. Because we are now looking at people in the inner cities. The inner cities are not occupied only by the youth. Even the adults are affected. But obviously, the adults, if they have managed to get some experiences, stand a better chance than youth. But obviously, it's one of the contributing factors for why the youth unemployment is really high. Then the underground economy. I was listening to a presentation today, because that's what they call the informal economy. Some people claim they are not actually unemployed because they try and successfully put food on the table. But if you want to dig into what they are doing in order to do that, of course they don't want to talk about it. So when people are conducting a survey to find out whether employed or unemployed, they are registered as unemployed because they are shameful or they fear to tell you what they do for a living. And of course the statistics sometimes not tell you the whole truth. Now quickly, and I said this is very skeleton so that I can stimulate some arguments and discussion with the audience. We look at the consequences when we use unemployment. The Caribbean Development Bank published a study in this year actually, in 2015, which looks at youth unemployment in general, and what struck me mostly was the analysis of the consequences of youth unemployment in the region. So this, the approach they used really applies to the Caribbean as a whole, including Jamaica. So it is not only Jamaican, but can relate to the Caribbean as a whole. At personal level, of course, the unemployed people lack the support, they can't support themselves. Hence, they participate in the antisocial behavior in order to survive. Either to survive, or because they actually have nothing else to do, what they engage themselves in is not always welcome within the society. So you get the young girls getting pregnant because they really don't have anything to occupy their time, or saving themselves. I'm sorry to say, but that happens. People don't have anything else. And when they get pregnant, of course, they have to feed the babies. And then that encourages them to do what they should otherwise not do. The young men, of course, start selling drugs in order to make a living. Now, at household level, the unemployed, of course, become a burden to the family as a whole. Every morning they get up, especially if it is not a well-to-do family, they say, okay, how can we divide the little we have in order to sustain this young person who is unemployed? But at community level, the level of crime, and I have an example that speaks to that from Jamaica, is much higher among the unemployed youth than you can find anywhere else. And this is illustrated by a study entitled Youth Victimization and Offending in Jamaica, Analysis of Serious Violent Crime, which was done by Senior Superintendent Norman Haywood and Deputy Superintendent Michael Rollins, which revealed that 90% of untouched youth, and untouched youth, they are youth who don't go to school, they are not employed, and most of the cases can't read and write, actually. Outside the labor force, had no skills training, and approximately 70% had no academic qualification and were in need of remedial education. This, according to the study, has had a huge implication for crime and violence in Jamaica in the following way. One, the number of active gangs in Jamaica is distributed among the parishes in a similar pattern to that for the number of unattached youths, including the one, St. Andrew, 51%, followed by St. Catherine, 13%, followed by St. James, 10%, and Kingston, 7%. These parishes have consistently accounted for upward of 70% of total murders and shootings in Jamaica over the last decade. The study also indicates that over the last 3 years, 60% of the murder perpetrators were between the ages of 15 to 24 years and were unemployed. Well, of course, if we want to get crime statistics, normally you have to depend upon what is produced by the police, the police force. And these are gearing statistics which are extremely worrying relating to youth unemployment. Now, what are possible solutions? That one also hit in your face. And then and of course there have been some presentation this far suggesting a lot of what can be done. Yeah, that's table 4. Recommended solution to youth unemployment. The first suggested solution is establishment of a dual system of technical and vocational education and training. That is, this is really an institution combining on job training with enumeration, which otherwise you call apprenticeship. 2, the career education initiative in schools, which also I think I had it discussed this morning, where teachers are trained to conduct career development and guidance in schools as part of the curriculum. 3, employment service centers with outreach to youth. Here, this will include web-based portals to provide information on job vacancies and spread as much as possible in the community so that everybody gets a chance to know the latest appearance of the job venue. Government wage subsidies to youth employers. If there are some employers, whether they are public or private, who actually have better inclination to employ youth, government should give them some subsidies so that they can encourage them to continue doing so, and thereby reducing the youth unemployment. And lastly, subsidizing credit to young entrepreneurs by agencies. The agency can be government again, it can be private, but if someone becomes an entrepreneur, they need capital. Obviously, you can't sustain a business, a new business without money. So there should be a mechanism which can help the young ones who have taken the courage to be entrepreneurs so that they can harness their trade. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jimmy. We're going to move right along to Carlos Applewhaite. And once he's finished, then I'll do a quick, just give some thoughts, and then we'll throw it open for questions.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be presenting today on a paper that actually came out of a course I did in the Masters in Political Science. And what we were attempting to do in this course is to use political science to answer some of the problems that occur in society. And it was quite an interesting course because most people usually think of political scientists as just pure politics, but we actually do attempt to solve some of society's pressing issues. And the big question that essentially emerged for us was, how can political science, again, be used to solve social and economic problems in a developing country? And it was quite amazing that my first week in Jamaica in 2013, I just started a master's program, and I started reading the Gleaner, and I came upon these two headlines, and it was quite depressing to see that I had just taken out a student loan to come and do a master's in a country where the headline is no jobs for grads. So it was a little disheartening, of course, as it would have been for many others. Then 2 days later, the headline was job let down. These two were actually all the same week, so it was a bit of a shock for me coming to a new country and seeing this. Obviously, I thought there were no job prospects, but well, I'm currently working, so good for that. So, in identifying the problem, I now had a clear-cut problem that needed to be solved, and this was that in a country with below 1% economic growth and staggering youth unemployment, what can be done from a political science perspective to alleviate this core challenge? And basically, the solution was to look for synergies. And I have a big interest in agriculture, and I started to think about food security. And food security in the sense that, everyone in society or in the country has access to physical, social, and the economic, has access to the nutrients that they need for a day as in the 1,200 calorie a day diet. And most people may not agree, but Jamaica is actually quite high on the index of food secure countries in the Caribbean. Actually, Haiti is technically, according to FAO statistics, the only food insecure country in the Caribbean. And this got me thinking then, okay, well, if you're relatively food secure, according to the statistics, is this really so? And then we have agriculture as a sector that employs 18% of the population. That's over 200,000 Jamaicans, and yet it only contributes 6% to the gross domestic product of the country. So clearly we have an issue with what the economists would call total factor productivity. Because if you have 200,000 people contributing 6% to your country's GDP, and they make up 18% of your employed labor force, it really means it's almost like they're putting their efforts down into a barrel. And I further started to think about agriculture and what could come out from this, because not only do I have an interest in agriculture, but surprisingly enough, a lot more young people have an interest in agriculture. And in a study that I was doing actually a few months ago, we carried out a Vox poll of 195 students on the Mona campus, and we simply asked them, what industry do you find to be the most attractive in Jamaica for development? And surprisingly, to my surprise, 24% of them said agriculture is the most attractive industry for development. The second one was actually manufacturing, and the third was tourism. So again, I started thinking about linkages. You have these three key areas critical to national development and economic growth, and we have 40,000 young people who are graduating each year and need to be absorbed in certain sectors of the economy. So, as a political scientist, if I actually want to do a project proposal, I started thinking of the theoretical considerations that could be involved in developing a project in agribusiness. And it came, of course, 4 key concepts or theories, and these would have been the rights-based approach to development, social capital versus economic capital, empowerment as a theory, and learned hopefulness versus learned helpfulness. And if you can just look at the rights-based approach to development, it's an adapted approach to the process of development that is more inclusive and empowering. And the Department for International Development, DFID, they see it as a human rights approach to a development that focuses on empowering all people to claim their rights to the opportunities made available through pro-poor development. And this form of development is essential, as the main aim is the empowerment of youth. And through it, we want this through entrepreneurial activities and the diversification of the agricultural sector, notwithstanding the fact that Jamaica has a very large rural population. And we need to initiate a development model that doesn't exploit the resources we have, but one which uses the resources we have to create a sustainable, to achieve our sustainable goals. And the rights-based approach to this issue is key in empowering a vulnerable group of the population that feels as though they are excluded from the political process and unable to obtain capital. And on the note of capital now, when we look at economic capital, which is in terms of financing of projects, loans, joint ventures, equity, everything. Another important aspect in developing any project in entrepreneurship, and specifically for this in agribusiness, is actually social capital. And social capital is not really a new kind of capital, it's always existed. We've just never really put a name to it or explore it as much as we have. We should, sorry. And this social capital, when we think of it, is like the intangible connections that exist among individuals, their social networks, and it forms a bit of reciprocity among them. And I think what has been missing from a lot of the programs and in terms of the projects that we develop is that we don't stress the social capital as much, because when you're actually looking at management and looking at business, you have to realize that you operate in a supply chain, and most entrepreneurs seem to forget this. So you can't exactly work in a vacuum. You need to have communication ongoing with everyone in your supply chain. That in turn deals with your customers, that deals with your suppliers, that deals with every stakeholder. And you need to have that reciprocity that emerges among everyone, because it's only then that you can actually have improved quality and total factor productivity. So while you can have all the money to finance your business, if you have poor relations with your financiers, if you have poor relations with your community where you actually extract your goods, and if you have poor relations with your customers, then your business will probably be doomed to fail. So social capital is extremely important in engendering and developing projects that involve youth and involve development on a whole. Further, empowerment always comes up in these areas, and we're looking at empowerment now no longer as just the choice word for speaking of youth. We want to look at empowerment as a continuous process, and this is actually according to late Professor Norman Gervin, as a continuous process in which the principal element is an improvement in the ability of people to design and participate in processes and events that shape their lives. So when we actually initiate a program that is going to be helping young persons and helping the community at large, we need to realize that it has to be an ongoing process. So we can't just say we're going to initiate this program for a year and then just go on about our merry way, now that the funding from UNDP or World Bank has dried up. And empowerment now again links into the final theory, which is learned hopefulness. Now, I know it's probably not something you might think of that way exploring political science, but we look at learned hopefulness as it's a process whereby individuals learn and utilize skills that enable them to develop a sense of psychological empowerment. And any program, any development project that seeks to have the aims of improving the livelihoods of not only the participants, but also the community and the nation at large, has to realize that you need to equip individuals with the skills to actually improve themselves, not in that moment, but in the future as they progress along their own lives. Now, further considerations had to look at the conducive environment to entrepreneurship. And these 5 areas were actually identified by Nyawali and Fogel. And if you just use Jamaica as an example, now, government policies and procedures, and this relates to the ease of conducting business and the tax regimes. And Jamaica is actually currently ranked as the #1 place in the Caribbean to do business. This is according to the World Bank's Doing Business report. We're actually ranked number 58. And business startup is actually their claim to fame now, because they're ranked 20th. And this is because they've eased procedures to actually start a business down to just 2. It takes about 4 to 8 days to start a business. So all of these reforms have been going on, and there actually are steps now to improve entrepreneurship and the ease of starting a business. If you look at the socioeconomic conditions, the attitudes toward entrepreneurship, while doing this research, I was actually quite surprised that Jamaica, according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, the research they conducted across their sample, Jamaica, 80% of early stage entrepreneurs in Jamaica have been qualified at no further than the secondary level. And as always, we need improvements in access to finance, and these have been identified doing research through funds developed by the Development Bank of Jamaica, commercial banks, and other stakeholders. And again, the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, they also identified that Jamaica is the #2 country in the world that approves of entrepreneurship as a career choice. 84% of the individuals they sampled actually saw themselves becoming entrepreneurs in whatever field it was. And this actually shocked me, because previously we in the Caribbean have been considered very risk averse. And now to see a statistic that says 80% of people actually would like to be an entrepreneur, I was quite shocked. Yeah. All right. My time is running out, so I'm just gonna carry on. And entrepreneurship and business skills, management and accounting skills. I spoke about a little earlier when they noted that the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor noted that 80% of early starter entrepreneurs lack post-secondary education, and this is obviously a key criteria if you're going to actually develop capable and competent medium and small enterprises. Because it doesn't make sense you having 500 small businesses emerging a year if the individuals for these businesses probably won't last more than 6 months. And also financial support to business, the availability of capital, the non-financial support to business, such as mentorship and networking. I think both of these have actually alluded to those, so I'll just skip ahead here. So I decided to look at farmers in Jamaica, and I just wanted some demographics. Now, the data that I got was quite impressive, and I tried to manipulate it in some cool ways, but it just couldn't work for PowerPoint. So what I'm just going to show you here is the total amount of registered farmers per parish in Jamaica, which is the green bar, and then the lighter color, which is obviously a much smaller one, is actually the amount of farmers in Jamaica, registered farmers, who are under the age of 34. And in each parish, it is less than 10%. Only in, I believe it's St. Elizabeth, St. Elizabeth, and Clarendon, and Manchester, and St. Anne. They actually register, say, 11 to 10% of the registered farmers are actually under the age of 34. I can tell you how many are actually under the age of 60, and you'd be quite shocked. Now, in terms of the actual project coordination, I hope anyone from UNDP is here because I'm going to pitch my project right now. So when you look at agribusiness, I decided that the traditional form of agriculture was just kind of unsatisfactory, and it was essential to look at agribusiness and demystify the whole notion of just forking the ground and cleaning a sheep. We actually have to look at the fact that there are multiple components to agribusiness that anyone can really be involved in, and just because you're a university graduate doesn't mean you can't work in agriculture, but you just might not be tilling the soil. Yeah, but you're going to be doing something else. You could be working in logistics, you could be working in processing, in the marketing of agricultural products. You could be an engineer just working on machinery and equipment to improve crop production. You could be the one that is going to finally find out how we can produce sustainable coffee in Jamaica and into that niche market. And of course, there's logistics management. So there are a host of areas involved within agribusiness as opposed to what we would consider the traditional agriculture. Now, when you look at existing initiatives in Jamaica, we have some sensitization programs, which would be like the Youth in Agriculture initiative put on by the Ministry of Agriculture, the entrepreneurship program, the Young Farmers Entrepreneurship Program, and in terms of research, the Scientific Research Council, they actually now produce products that they will genetically modify, some of them, and they actually just sell their patents to prospective entrepreneurs. I recently bought some lemongrass water that was developed by the Scientific Research Council, and some sweet potato juice. I didn't know it was possible, but you can get juice from sweet potato. And if you're willing to be the entrepreneur who invests in that venture, you simply buy the patent from them and you market your product, and it's yours to take to market. So these initiatives do exist, and slowly more people are becoming aware of them and actually coming along and taking them up. Now, the objectives of my project would really be to demystify the myths of agriculture and champion agribusiness. To empower young Jamaicans by providing meaningful opportunities in productive enterprise, to use social capital as a way of engendering effective supply chains, thus increasing output and quality of products, and to reduce the youth unemployment rate and increase domestic economic growth and societal well-being. Alright, yes, this is a simple Gantt chart of the project. It would not be a simple 3-month or 1-month project. It actually occurred throughout an entire year. And as you can see, the beginning, of course, would be an actual identification of target groups. Then you have the assignment of mentors to participants based on the particular cluster, which I would have identified in the agribusiness chart, so whether it's marketing, logistics. Because at the end of the project, someone might not actually become an entrepreneur, but they might end up working for one of these companies because they just developed an app, or they just found out a way that LASCO could produce something even better. So you don't necessarily have to be an entrepreneur at the end of this project, but you become a contributing member to society. The third component would have been training and workshops, just in business modeling, management, and various sector-specific activity. The final component would have been presentation of final plans for intervention. And I use this final plans for intervention as we want to actually ensure that persons who would have participated in this program can actually contribute now, and they wouldn't have been there for 8 to 10 months operating in the vacuum. And finally, of course, we need intense monitoring and evaluation to ensure that we actually achieve our targets. And just finally, the key performance indicators. We need to see some new technology developed to increase food production. This could either be assistive software applications. You could produce an app for a farmer that helps him to send a message out to individuals in the community saying, hey, these are my new products, these are my prices, this is where I am, this is where you can find me. Production techniques, reduce climate vulnerability. Jamaica is currently in the third year of a ridiculous drought, and it is affecting food production. If you check the ESSJ, agricultural production levels in the first half of the year are always above 10%, but by the time you get to June, it just reverses the entire trend. So while the farmers have been going so hard from January to June in the production cycles, the moment summer period hits in, it just all slows down. And I wish I had my headlines to show you again, but, oh, sorry, yes. When you think about climate change and the drought, is seriously affecting the agriculture sector, but there are ways in which we can improve production and improve and implement sustainable agricultural techniques, which of course would be interesting if we could get them promoted coming out of this project. Also, absorption of 75% or more of our participants into the formal economy. Now again, 75 might be ambitious, but you have to be ambitious sometimes. And again, I say into the formal economy, and this can either be entrepreneurs, professionals, skilled workers, essentially anyone. It's not just for entrepreneurs. You want to actually get people producing and becoming functioning members of society. And finally, to increase the contribution of share to GDP from its current 6% to at least 12%. Thank you.
Thank you, all three of you. I think those were extremely informative and quite creative presentations. While they were presenting, I had so many thoughts of all these cross-cutting things. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm extremely passionate about entrepreneurship, about creativity. I never like to do the same thing twice, which makes me sort of odd because sometimes you have to do the same thing twice. But when I listen to Dr. Tim, if I take him first, that's youth unemployment in Jamaica. So there are many youth unemployed. But then we come to Mrs. Reid James, who's telling us about a model, a very integrated, holistic model, which she's proposing, if this is used to help young people to start businesses, can actually become that ideal model to build entrepreneurs. But I don't think it's just entrepreneurs. It's also changing the culture of the region or Jamaica, the region, for us to become more entrepreneurial people. And if anybody was sitting in my session this morning, my thing is we need entrepreneurial people in the region, not just to start businesses, but to become very productive individuals, to make the link between how their value, what they do in the value chain adds to productivity in the Caribbean, and so boost competitiveness and bring money into the region and into our countries, because that's what we need now, yeah? And I'm thinking that if all our young people, if we could cut unemployment almost to nothing, and use those hands that are wasted right now, those energies that are wasted right now, even those in prison, yeah? If we could take everybody and gainfully engage them in the productive sector, do you know what would happen? It would be awesome. And so, pulling your model together to solve youth unemployment and bringing agribusiness over there, which is food security, And yes, I'm sure you're learning about Jamaica, Mr. Applewhaite. We are very entrepreneurial, and I live in Barbados, but yes, I'm Jamaican. And he's Barbadian, so very entrepreneurial. Jamaica is really, really pushing forward, so I'm glad you're learning some of that. But food security is also extremely important, and I suspect you brought in the drought, so I really want you to find some solutions for that, because we cannot sit in the region and try to talk about drought. It's not just the Caribbean. It's not just Jamaica. It's the entire Caribbean. We're looking at desalination in Antigua, and I'm trying to help some young agripreneurs, we call the young farmers, agripreneurs, to get equipment to do desalination, but that's also quite expensive. I haven't found anybody as yet who can help us with that. But that's one option, but we have to look at other ways. We can't just say that drought is there and every year it's the same thing. We have to find solutions. So pulling all those together, I see here a plan. This is a plan for reducing youth unemployment. So I'm going to throw it open to the floor for questions. So we'll take all the questions, just because the mic has to come back and forth, and then we will respond.
Okay, so my question, two parts. How do you help our entrepreneurs start their business while still remaining debt-free? Yeah, debt-free, because then it doesn't make any sense. You help them start, and then it's like student loan bureau all over again. Sorry, I can't be politically correct at this point. The second question is, I love the presentation on agribusiness in particular. And then I'm going to also bring in, so how do you help persons who want to start a social enterprise and environmentally friendly business? Because the agribusiness depends on the environment, and it depends on the society that you're in. So could you just, anybody can take it up, just help me understand the mechanisms that you want to propose in helping us as environmentally friendly entrepreneurs and agri-entrepreneurs to remain debt-free while starting. Startup, debt-free.
Thank you. So we're going to answer the questions after we've had all of them.
My name is Zanella Claxton. I'm from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I work at the Department of Youth and Sports in Nevis. I have more of a comment or a statement than a question, but you can feel free to comment on my comment after I'm done. Mrs. Reid James mentioned the importance of inculcating that entrepreneurial mentality or thought process at the primary school level. And it's so interesting because prior to this session I was having a conversation with a colleague, and one of the things that we spoke about is the fact that the majority of children in the Caribbean are taught to, sit, quietly listen, follow, and so we're creating academic robots. And then we say, teach them an entrepreneurial mindset or show them what entrepreneurship means. I want to probably take a different angle, Mrs. Reid James, on that concept of teaching entrepreneurship at the primary school level, and perhaps looking at the possibility of giving our young people, our children at the primary school level, I will start at that level as well, or even younger, the opportunities to explore, to be creative, to speak, to articulate what they're thinking. And I feel that would help, that would boost the entrepreneurship mindset, because they're already creatively thinking, they're already exploring, they're already inventing. And so instead, we're not going to take it from the point of we're teaching you to be entrepreneurial, but we are teaching you to be broad, wide, holistic thinkers. We are we're allowing you and guiding you to be broad and wide thinkers so that you can then transfer those skills into an entrepreneurship and other, because it doesn't have to be just entrepreneurship, but even in if you end up at an 8 to 5 job, you can put some of that creativity and make that job even more exciting and attractive.
Anybody else? Any other questions or comments or suggestions?
I think I'll take the last comment first. And I appreciate the comment you made, the statement you made about academic robots. We are creating a culture where we do not have risk takers, but persons who follow rules, guidelines, procedures, and the status quo or the precedents that has already been set. And while I didn't get time to go into detail, but what I leave with you is this: creating a culture. Culture is not taught, it is something that is experienced. And really our education system has to be such that it facilitates instead of instructs. And that is the only way we can encourage a culture of entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship, just like you mentioned, is not necessarily starting business, but creating a wealth of ideas and knowledge and innovation that can lead persons to start seeing something like agribusiness as not just tilling the soil, but they'll understand that you don't have to go in and sit in a class for it to be explained, but agribusiness can include app development. So I can study IT and still get into agribusiness. So I'm really, really glad that you said that. And it would be even more powerful if more of our people started thinking that way. We are operating in a world that is transitioning, and if we can transition seriously to a facilitatory learning environment instead of a tutored learning environment would be great.
Any other comments on that?
Debt-free entrepreneurs. Well, that's sort of searching really. But I think my response is that if career education is encouraged at school level, when people start learning to be entrepreneurs as young as possible, from primary to secondary education, and as he suggests, even when they go to post-secondary education, then probably they can prepare themselves, set up some entrepreneurship by borrowing from friends and relatives and parents and avoid the debt. On the other hand, what I suggested as subsidized credit by some agencies, which can be a combination of government, that is public and private, they could lend money on revolving basis, so that if they give you money to start a business or to add on what you have, you are given the time to pay back, so that that money can be utilized by other people, and then it goes on year in and year out. That's the only way, like the two ways I can think of that can avoid debt creation on the part of the entrepreneurs.
All right, in addressing the first question, I'm just going to go back to one of the points I mentioned in my presentation: social capital versus economic capital. If you don't have the finances at the beginning, I mean, this isn't a panacea, it's not a cure, but one suggestion I can have for you is a cooperative movement. This is the best example of social capital being used to develop enterprise. And since you mentioned social enterprise, then a cooperative movement would probably be the best solution for you. You find a group of like-minded people who are interested in developing their capacity for production, and however much of yours is, you all work together in actually developing each of your different components. Because I don't know what you're doing in agriculture at the moment, but I'm sure that you can't cover all the 7 areas that I identified. But if you can find 6 other people, you can find a marketing specialist, You can find someone who is in app development, who's in IT. You can find someone who may have skills at processing when it comes to Jamaica does a lot of sauces, right? Sauces. And, yeah, and when it comes to processing, so you find like-minded individuals, and you can start a social enterprise using social capital. Economic capital is very difficult to access, and I can't provide a remedy for that at all. But I can advise you that the cooperative movement is a good place to start.
Responding to the same question, debt-free entrepreneurship is possible, and it comes from research. If an entrepreneur effectively researches their business model and not sit around and say, well, if I don't have the money and I can't start. If you don't approach it from that perspective, you can start in phases based on what it is you have. And the challenge we have sometimes with entrepreneurs is that as soon as you make a tiny bit of profit, it's not reinvested into the business. It's used now to buy something that make it look like your business is doing well. So those are some tiny things that can be easily changed through mentorship. In addition to that, there is quite a bit of free money that goes around. Depending on how innovative your idea is, there is crowdfunding sources that you can look at so that you're debt free. But you have to be clear on what it is you're starting out with in your business. And something that I'll mention, which goes to your second question about environmentally friendly businesses, those tend to get more funding now than business that is going to be harmful to the environment. So if that is the route you're going, it is more likely that you'll get financial support.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Adrian. I hope those help you. We can talk one way another time.
I'd like to find the free money.
Do we have anything before we close? This is it. It's been a long day. You have been very patient and attentive, and I thank the panelists very, very much for your contribution, which was, as far as I'm concerned, extremely creative and informative. And I hope you go forward, both of you, with your business ideas, because those are business ideas, yeah? So, is this it then? We're gone? Thank you, that's a wrap.